program 53, the beginning of a new cycle for the Ammach files here on PIR, peoplesinternetradio.com. And thank you again to Stephen Roberts for hosting us. Absolutely fantastic. So I just wanted to, again, just flag up the forensic dowsing workshop. We're coming ever nearer to that. Just for those people who haven't heard it, this is a new tool and a new way of sourcing and researching ET, and it is evidence-based. You can actually, through archaeological stains, which is a system of using the residue frequencies or vibrations, or however you want to class those elements, through dowsing. And this really is amazing stuff. Part of their team, they work as scientifically as possible, and one of them, who is a retired physicist, has said, my goodness, if I'd have had this to use when I was doing my work, it would have been an awful lot speedier. So the 31st of October, which is a Saturday, and that is 10:30 to 4:30, we'll be doing a workshop which will provide you guys with tools to search for yourself and see and have demonstrated some of these amazing findings, because this is not just through the ancient archaeological sites that we're finding information. This is also in the cosmos. This is really big stuff, people. And hey, happened here first in the UK. So that's absolutely fantastic. And if you want to come along, just let me know at ammach@hotmail.co.uk. And there's information on the events page on the website, which is ammach.co.uk. So on to this evening, and it is, as you know, is the Ammach Files. It is the 20th of October, and it's 2015. And I think we were almost on time, so I hope you were sitting down for that one. It's been a beautiful day today, and I went and took myself off on a little jogging run. My goodness, the first time for a long time without my little doggy, and that was absolutely amazing. The shapes of the sun and the clouds were just absolutely beautiful. And I'm going to bring us back to shapes and clouds in a little bit with my guest. But I want to tell you also about some of the information that's been coming through. There is something that I used to be involved with an awful lot called cymatics, a lot to do with the frequencies of the organs and the healing of that through sound and vibration. And many years ago, I did a lot of work and research with a man called Peter Guy Manners, whom I eventually did 3 half-hour videos with. And really, you know what, I wish I'd filmed the backstory. I've only just got those out of they were just held away in the attic for a long time, and I finally found them the other week, and it's amazing to see how dated we all look back then. Anyway, what I wanted to tell you about that, it's just interesting how these different strands come along, is that someone I've been speaking to recently who has a military connection was talking about how they have been using sound and cymatics in some of the oceans and the effect that that's having. So it's using these healing vibrations. And what was happening absolutely stunned them. And it was this. Once they put down the 30-meter of cable attached to the speakers deep into the ocean, they began to get a response from the whales and the dolphins, as if they were singing in chorus with the beautiful sounds. And so this is perhaps a clue and a way forward of perhaps how we can heal our planet through the vibrations in the waters. As we know, so much of it is water, just like ourselves. So that's quite an exciting event. Anyway, that led me on to a really beautiful video showing a wonderful animal communicator. And I'm talking about the animals a little bit this evening because ET also has a big impact on animals. But for this moment, I want to talk about a lady called Anna Breitenbach. I think I've got her name correct here. Now, she's an animal communicator, used to work in Silicon Valley. And there's a very famous video out there of her now communicating with a wonderful leopard who was rescued from a horrible zoo scenario. Anyway, what I was very interested to see recently was that she'd also went to try and sort out issues with white sharks, the great white sharks. And this is what she had to say. I'm hoping that we can just listen to 5 minutes of a 15-minute interview that she's giving, just to hear some of her conclusions about how we can be totally safe in the waters. And really what it's down to is an attitude, and it's in the quantum field that the animals are also resonating. And so it's about, maybe to some extent, maybe we need to think a little bit about re-educating ourselves in terms of our interaction with wildlife. And not that we can't have that, but just we need to bring another strand of awareness into it. So if we've got that ready to go, we'll hear Anna just talking about what she has found out from her communications with the great white shark. And I hope you find it interesting. Well, I'm not quite sure at which point I was lost, but anyway, so I just wanted to say, folks, that I really wanted to share that information with you, that wonderful thing that Anna had to share, because it is bringing ever more to the fore this idea of the quantum field, of course, and I know you guys know a lot about that kind of thing, but I hadn't thought about it in terms of their communication as in the terms of the great white shark having actually been in the sea and picking up all that information. Of course, it makes complete sense. So I'm just extending that out to other information in the field. That's where I'm going with that. But I just really wanted to share that with you because it was so amazing. So we'll come back to the relevance of all of that shortly. But I just wanted to, one last little clip before I bring on my wonderful guest, who is John Martin, who's a classical guitarist out in Atlanta, and we'll be speaking to him after our piece of music, which is in fact his own composition called Jasmine Rain, but we'll wait for that until after this next clip. Now this is Stephen Bassett from the PRG, that's Paradigm Research Group. Sorry about that, folks. Paradigm Research Group. Now they, in 2014, had a kind of set up hearing in front of retired Congress people to present the case for disclosure. So this is now a letter that he has written, an open letter to Senator Hillary Clinton about the issue of UFOs and disclosure, and how the history has been involved down the line with her and the Rockefellers. So if we've got that clip queued up, it's just 5 minutes. I just think you'll find it very interesting because this was just sent this last week. So we're still pushing that envelope, folks, one way or another. There's several of us doing it in our different ways. So listen to Stephen from PRG, Paradigm Research Group, and he is talking about reading, in fact, as well, the open letter to Senator Hillary Clinton.
Hang on a few seconds here, Joanne. I got to find that, which...
Oh, okie dokie. All right. Well, I'll just say that Stephen has been banging that drum for quite a long time about government, the need for government disclosure.
I have it now.
About this issue. And as he says, it is second to none in importance. If we take all the different 360-degree subjects that are involved with the ET issue, it really is an incredible field. So we'll just see if that's coming up. I just wanted you to hear, Stephen's done a tremendous amount of work over a number of years now, and he hasn't, ever given up. He has just carried on, and I think this is the important thing with all of us in our different fields. It's the tenacity, and eventually wearing away like that stone. So anyway, let me just see if we have that.
I do have it now. I do have it now, Joanne.
Okay, that's lovely. So I hope you enjoy this and hope you find it informative. Stephen Bassett from PRG. That's Paradigm Research Group.
Welcome to the YouTube channel for Paradigm Research Group. I'm Executive Director Stephen Bassett. On April 30, 2008, Paradigm Research Group distributed to the media and published on the internet an open letter to then Senator Hillary Clinton, who was running for President of the United States. On March 28th of this year, Paradigm Research Group again issued an open letter to Secretary Clinton, also again running for President of the United States. Now with the first Democratic presidential debate about to happen on October 13th, Paradigm Research Group is once again putting this letter out, and this time it's also doing it on YouTube. And it reads as follows. Dear Secretary Clinton, in March 1993, billionaire Lawrence Rockefeller initiated an extraordinary approach to your husband's administration via the Office of Science and Technology Policy, headed by Dr. John Gibbons. A memorandum from Mr. Rockefeller's attorney Henry Diamond, dated March 29, 1993, conveyed a request to meet with Mr. Gibbons, quote, to discuss the potential availability of government information about unidentified flying objects and extraterrestrial life, unquote. Rockefeller, a friend and supporter of you and your husband, wanted to meet with the president and inform him, quote, there is a belief in many quarters that the government has long held classified information regarding UFOs, which has not been released, and that the failure to do so has brought about unnecessary suspicion and distrust, unquote. And that, quote, many believe that this gesture, the release of this information on a basis consistent with national security, would be a significant gesture which would increase confidence in government. Thus began a 3-year effort by a notable American to convince your husband to essentially be the disclosure president and end a then 46-year truth embargo on providing the full facts to the American people regarding an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. This effort, which included meetings, reports, briefings, a book, draft letters to the president, and more, came to be known as the Rockefeller Initiative. You were aware of this initiative from the beginning, as was a key advisor to the president, John Podesta. You and your husband met with Rockefeller at his Wyoming ranch in August of 1995. Your husband tasked a close friend, Associate Attorney General Webster Hubbell, to look into the UFO issue at the Department of Justice and elsewhere. He tasked John Podesta, his eventual chief of staff, to reform and accelerate the document declassification process. You were kept informed of the ongoing initiative and helped draft a letter from Rockefeller to the president. It is notable that John Podesta, the founder and now CEO, or formerly CEO, of the Center for American Progress, in 2002 and 2003 called for the release to the public of all UFO and related documents in government files. In 2004, Governor Bill Richardson, UN Ambassador and Secretary of Energy during your husband's administration, made a similar request for documents pertaining to the events in Roswell, New Mexico, during July of 1947. These facts are known from news articles, public records, and most importantly, from nearly 1,000 pages of correspondence and documents obtained by researcher Grant Cameron from the Office of Science and Technology Policy via the Freedom of Information Act. Additional relevant documents were released from the Clinton Presidential Library. Madam Secretary, it is your ambition to reach a significant milestone in American history by becoming the first president of the United States who happens to be a woman, or put another way, the 69th female head of state. While this would be an admirable legacy, what the American people need is less legacy and more truth. The people have lost patience with in loco parentis government that treats them like children and candidates with long lists of issues they can't discuss because it is not convenient to their campaign or the people, quote, can't handle the truth, unquote. Because you have been introduced to these matters within the context of the White House, because you aspire to the highest office in the nation and have an extraordinary opportunity and primary obligation to address what is easily the most profound issue of our time, an issue with major national security and policy implications. Respectfully, Stephen Bassett, Executive Director. And in this instance, I'm going to add a postscript to this letter. P.S. Madam Secretary, if you choose to speak truth to power, it is not enough to select those truths which are convenient or safe or self-serving. You must speak the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and place your fate in the hands of history. And history is ready to receive. Thank you.
Well, I hope you found that interesting. And if you want to see that again or read the actual letter itself, you can go to Paradigm Research Group. I think it's .org. Anyway, if you just Google that, if you are so interested. And what's also interesting is, I think it was about 2000 and it was either 11, possibly 10. I was at one of the Royal Society meetings just out of curiosity to see the sort of people that attended there. And it was Paul Davies who was speaking, and he's an astrophysicist. Or is it an astrobiologist? Sorry about that, Paul. Anyway, the point of the thing is that a photograph had just recently been found of Hillary carrying a book. Now, we could only see the reverse side of the book as she was in the picture. And what was interesting is that she was with Lawrence Rockefeller. And so then the big clamor was, what was the book? And so we found out that the book was, in fact, by Paul Davies about Are We Alone? Now, of course, he was talking about more in terms of the biology, in terms rather than in terms of actual intelligent beings already out and about there. So I got to ask the question of Paul Davies for research for Grant Cameron as well, who's done a prodigious amount of work on what the presidents know, and asked if he knew anything about Hillary's, why she would have that book. Was it to do with ET or anything like that? And of course, he said it was the first that he'd known that she'd even had his book. So we didn't get any further there, but it was interesting to see that she had his book all those years back at the Rockefeller Ranch. So we're just about to meet John Martin, but I want you to hear his wonderful composition, A Jasmine Rain. And today was such a hot day, a little light jasmine rain would have been wonderful. And this is John's own composition. Listen to this, and then we'll be back with John after about 3 minutes. That was lovely. Really relaxing. So welcome to John. John Martin over in Atlanta. Welcome to the Ammach Files.
Thank you.
Can you hear me, John? Have we got you there?
I hope so. I see myself. Anyway.
Lovely. That's great. That's absolutely great. Well, welcome to the Ammach Files, John. I don't know if your audio is up. I was having a bit of difficulty hearing you there.
I hope. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's great. That's absolutely great.
Good.
Now, I heard you speaking on another interview fairly recently, John, which is why I asked you to come onto the show, because, again, it's another first. I haven't heard of anybody having done what you had been doing. And I think if you would just explain, I'll say you're a classical guitarist, and that's what you've been for many years, as far as I'm aware. And you've been playing under the stars, and you've been having some company. So tell us about that.
I will. And I think it's so interesting that you had that first clip, because I probably watched Diablo.
Yes.
Who was not Diablo. Of course he was Spirit. Probably
Yeah.
dozens of times. And what I do is so similar in a way to what she does. And I just thought that was very intuitive of you to play that at this time, because that moved me very much. That story and that realization that there's so much more conversation that could be had between species and
just
animals.
between ourselves, John.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's just finding a way forward, isn't it? And this is what, this is all about as well. And People's Internet Radio, it's, seeking solutions, but the main part of a solution is communication in the first place. And, even if it's to say, I can't be there yet, just to let people know, just to keep the information flow and stream going. I mean, we all get busy, and it's all difficult. Well, it's difficult sometimes for all of us at various points, but I'm glad you like the Anna Breitenbach, and that's who we were talking about, the animal communicator. And John was just mentioning there an animal, the Black Panther, that was originally named Diablo, and he actually took exception to his name, and he was renamed Spirit, and he was on a big cat, a rescue place or sanctuary in, I think it was South Africa, wasn't it, John?
Yes, it was.
And poor Diablo, as was, and Spirit now, had been in his night cage for a very long time, for those of you who don't know. And his only mode was attack and ferociousness toward humans. And then when Anna came on board, I have to say the owners did not have any faith in her skills, because they tried already so hard. And the guy had such a great relationship with his other big cats. But then when Anna came on and she told him some information that, how could she have known that about some other creatures who were with Diablo, Spirit, at the time of his rescue? And he was concerned for their welfare. I mean, this is just astonishing and very beautiful. And that's just why I wanted to really bring that element in of the quantum communication field in. And John's experience is just very indicative of that. So I just wanted to hook up that animal communicator information again. And John, tell us what you've been doing out there under the stars, which is so wonderful.
It's very similar to what Anna does. When I saw her, there's never any actual vocalization. It's all within my mind, just really in the same way she was empathing with Spirit. And that's what I do is, and it started about 2 years ago. And I just felt something in me felt like I really wanted to go outside and perform my art to the universe. And so I have a deck that overlooks a really beautiful courtyard, and so I just made a point to always go out a few times a week with that in mind to perform music and just to emanate positive thoughts into the universe. And it was not very long at all before incredible structured crafts came into the courtyard in response. And the first one was a beautiful purple bell-like structures, probably 6 feet across and about 8 feet high would be my guess. And it had about a third of the way up, it had this beautiful pink ring that was spinning around the circumference of the bell. And it was just a really, truly amazing event. And that was the first. The second was, and what happens is I will play my music, and then I have a small dog, and I take him out all the time. When I bring him back into the courtyard, that's when I saw the first one. And again, on the second time, that's, not sure if you're getting my video or not. Yeah, anyway, the second time there were 4 spinning craft directly over my courtyard, 1 red one and 3 gray ones, completely in line, 2 sets of 2 that were completely silent, and that was, you know, another just an amazing event. And then about a month later, 2 very large craft came in. One was the shape of a cross, the other was the shape of a crescent, and they were at a 45-degree angle. They were burnished metal. It was 4 in the afternoon. The sun was shining. I could see the burnished metal, how it was reflecting the sunlight, and I've described it before, them being the size of office buildings, basically. And
Really? So huge.
yes, they were quite an amazing thing. And I sent some pictures to you, Joanne. One was the around that same time, a few months earlier in your country. No, well, I think it was England actually. That are you in the UK or are you in Ireland?
I'm in England.
England.
So,
Well, one of the structures was near Stonehenge, and the other was, I think, somewhere else in the countryside there, and it was the exact same shapes that I saw. The
I think you're talking about, excuse me, I've still got a little bit of a throaty thing going on there. The pictures, we're just going to try and get hold of those so people can have a look at those now. And these are similar to the shapes that you saw. And were these all of a similar size?
No, the first one was, as I said, probably, and it was directly over. We have a townhouse, and so it was about. It looked to be about 30 feet above our roof line, and I saw it for a long time. I went inside and got Karen, my significant other. She came out, and she saw it with me, and it was very slow moving. I mean, it just sat over the townhouse, and then it kind of moved, and then it slowly kind of worked its way off. It didn't go high in the sky. It just kept the same, like maybe 100 feet off the ground, and slowly worked its way away from us. And the second one's a little harder for me to estimate the size because they were a few 100 feet in the air, but I would say they may well have been the same as the first. But the cross and the crescent shape was just huge. It just had a lot of mass to it. Just very incredibly impressive size. And
did you get any feeling, sort of, as in sort of any kind of communication, or you know, anything? Did the atmosphere change? Did anything change around you? You know, people sometimes have spoken about there being a very intense quiet, as if you were suddenly in a vacuum, that kind of thing. Or were there any other things that you noticed at the time?
Definitely quiet. My dog barks at everything, and he's really pretty much been with all my experiences. He didn't make a sound. He was completely silent. And yeah, the feeling I had was just really elation. There was not any sort of heaviness to it. It was just a beautiful experience. And I fumbled with my camera on my phone, actually, when I first saw it, and I took a picture of it, and only a single dot appeared.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah, I've thought about that many times, and I thought, well, they have the ability to suspend, craft like that just a few feet from you. I'm sure they have the ability to kind of turn the function off on a little cell phone. So that's kind of what I think about that one.
Yeah, I'm sure. And
Um,
what did your other half make of it?
she only saw it. I ran in and got her. She only saw it as it was crossing the roof line, and she didn't really get a good look at that one. The first one, she saw it as long as I did, probably 3 or 4 minutes. But I think she didn't really understand what it was, and that's very understandable, I would think. Now, when it did cross the roof line, I did go in and get her, and I'd bought a Canon camera because I was determined to get a really good picture, and I can't say I've really done that yet. But I came back out and I was fumbling with it, and very clearly in my mind, in my own voice, I heard them say, "Please don't take a picture. We'll give you something that you can take a picture of." And so I was just kind of overcome by the whole experience, and we just kind of went back in the house and kind of sat quietly, and then about 2 weeks later, in my same courtyard, exactly in the same spot where I first saw the cross and the crescent, this beautiful heart-shaped cloud was there, and I know it was them coming through with their promise that they'd give me something that I could take a picture of, that they felt comfortable sharing with the world, and I've been very open with telling people where it came from and what it's about, and I just think it was a beautiful gesture on their part. What a ingenious way to say thank you, and not have a full disclosure of who they are and their technology. I'm sure there's probably some larger plan than that, I would think, for that sort of a thing. So anyway,
You'd think so, and also I was just saying to you that the heart as a motif seems to have been very prevalent in my life, certainly over the last few years, and even if I'm notice some bubble gum stuck to the pavement, it'll be in a heart shape, or I'll see leaves on a tree and I'll suddenly see a heart shape, or anyway, all of this heart stuff, which I think is really beautiful.
yeah.
And I had, some years ago, I was trying to organize, I don't know if it was a meeting or a conference or something like that, with Sixto Paz Wells. I don't know if you've heard about him. He's the Peruvian contactee as opposed to abductee.
Oh.
And he's spoken a few times in America till he was banned, and then I think he's maybe back again. I don't think they liked him disclosing what he had to say. Anyway, but I was in a traffic jam, and as I was just looking up at the sky, which was fairly cloudy, and I was thinking about Sixto and thinking about getting this conference or talk together, and thinking about the amazing information that was coming down the pipe from him and the positive ET stuff, because it was all about the positive side of things and educating humanity. Honest to God, it was like a cookie cutter had cut a heart shape out of the clouds. And I was so astonished because it was clean cut edges. Yeah. I mean, it was just really like a cookie cutter. And I looked and blinked and looked again. I thought, oh, so how did that happen?
Isn't that amazing?
And that was gorgeous. We will get that picture up that you got of the heart-shaped cloud formation, because that's really beautiful. We'll get that up a little bit later so people can see it. But honest to goodness, that's been my only cloud heart formation, but that was extraordinary because, as I said, it was clean-cut edges and really just like somebody had got to take a cookie cutter and just cut out from the hole there.
So you saw sort of the negative of what I saw, because mine was a cloud and yours was the hole where the cloud was.
That's right. Yeah, you're quite. You know what? I haven't even thought about that. You're absolutely correct. Yes, I don't know what happened to the little bit of fluffy cookie cutter cloud. I don't know where that went, but it was really, you know, talking about these links, John, with the mind. It was really like something was absolutely, you know, or I was part of some quantum field that someone was just, you know, it was like a bit of a tag. It was like, you know, there you go, we've seen you, we've got that thought, we like it. So, and Sixto did indeed come over, and we did a talk, which is fascinating stuff. But that was, again, with the heart cloud. Was that after, I can't remember if you said it, excuse me if you already said, was that after you'd seen a craft, or was that just, you know, there in any event
This was
without any sighting?
in response to the really large craft that came through.
Okay.
I had my camera, that was the cross shape and the crescent, and it was
Yeah.
going just over the roof line. And, you know, I mean, I very easily could have run around and taken a bunch of pictures, I think, and you know, they really were not, you know, they wanted to come see me. They didn't, I feel like that's what happened.
Yeah.
And so that would have been disrespectful on my part. And so I didn't do that. You know, I respected their wish. And in response, about 10 days later, that's when this incredible heart-shaped cloud appeared. And, you know, and I'm trying to think about all the ramifications of what it would take to create that. I was actually just walking out my door down to my neighbors. We're going to go see Gravity, that movie, that particular day. And I walked out, and it was just sitting right there. And it would, you know, if you think of it, it could be, if it was just something that happened by chance, it could have been 360 degrees. You know, it could have been any different direction, but instead, and it's directional, you can see the tail of the heart behind it. So it was facing directly towards me. And for them to, you know, to be able to create that with the knowledge that I'm just going to be walking for maybe 15 seconds outside, it's, the more I think about it, the more amazed I am about that particular creation.
It does sound wonderful. It sounds like you've established a little bit of a link there. And it just reminds me, but slightly differently, of the link that I might have mentioned to you already, which was that that I'd had a wonderful gentleman on as a guest before, called John, another John Cole, who was telling me about his interest in sky watching, and that he had got some night vision gear, and then he'd also bought himself a laser pen, and he wasn't doing anything you know, mischievously or to cause any harm, and he wasn't certainly trying to, you know, point at anything particularly, but he just thought he would try communicating with ET, sort of like an invitation, using the laser pen. Well, what he got back was a rude awakening in more ways than one. He was woken up, and I don't know if it was immediately that night or one or two nights later, I don't recall at the moment, but he said he woke up with a sharp pain in his eye, as if he'd been very heavily poked in it, and it was so sore it maintained for the whole day, streaming and running, and he got very clearly the message, do not use your laser pen and shine it at us. So, or at the craft, I can't remember. But so he said they also, obviously he really annoyed somebody, but they were, it sounds amusing, but I guess if you're experiencing it, it's going to be really disconcerting. They were pinching his toes, pulling his sheets off him, and all that. Uh-oh. Oh, hey. Are we there?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you're still on.
Okay, I don't know what happened. I just noticed somebody calling me. I thought, oh, what point was I lost? I don't know. That's a rhetorical question, by the way, folks. So can you hear me? And are you there, John?
I am. Yeah, I'm.
Okay, you sound like you're way, way, way.
Oh, this happened a few minutes ago, too. I'm not sure exactly what that
All
is.
right. Well, I just had a call back. So anyway, so I'm here. That's fine. And people can hear me. That's great. Let me know, folks in the chat room, if you can't hear me or we suddenly go off, because I'm not always aware.
Is that
Anyway, so poor John had to endure being prodded and poked and pinched and pulled for a little bit.
Hey, Joanne. Joanne, turn your video back on.
And that eventually desisted to a greater
Joanne?
or lesser degree, I think.
Hey, Joanne,
Sorry, yeah.
turn your video back on.
Oh, I thought I was on. Uh-oh. There I am. Sorry, folks, I didn't realize I had gone completely off.
So what happened after that, Joanne, was...
Well, you know, because he began seeing quite a lot of stuff, and I think that all quietened down, to be honest. That all, but he got very, very strongly, do not do that. So he understood the rules then, you don't fire your laser pen willy-nilly into the sky, because of course some of these guys are cloaked.
Yeah.
They are, so you don't see them. And he hadn't been aware that he was actually firing it or showing it or, putting it in the sky at any particular body, because, he wasn't trying to do that. He was just really trying to, a bit of a, communication tool. But anyway, as I say, he vectored in ET, got a bit more than he bargained for there. But yes, again, it's interesting. He was desperate to talk to someone about this, because whilst I can, have a little, giggle and be amused at what happened, because he wasn't injured and nothing really happened awful to him. But it was, this communication is there, and it's very profound. And I think that, like you, John, when you go out with the intention, I mean, what, it hadn't occurred to me to do something like that, to go intentionally, and maybe it's also because you're a musician and you're used to interacting with an audience, and of course, why not have a cosmic audience? I think that's a fantastic idea. So I just have to ask you now, what were you playing?
I play Bach. I play pieces throughout history, going way back to the early Renaissance, to Baroque, Romantic, Impressionists, modern jazz. I play my own pieces, and now what I do, and it's interesting. You don't need any equipment to speak with them. I play when I'm sitting outside. Now what I do is I still play. I still play on my deck and project out to them. But I also go out at night and just sit in my chair and I play music in my head, and I acknowledge each of the big events that happened. And because I was going to say, after the heart-shaped cloud, there was a void where there was really no activity, and I thought, well, surely they've moved on to somebody more interesting. But I really don't think that was the case. They were giving me time to integrate the experience, and so after that, maybe 6 months, 8 months later, I'd be walking my dog at night, and I'd see these little white orbs that would be going, pretty close to me and kind of crossing my field of vision. And I realized that was them, just very gently saying, hey, if you want to interact again, we're here. And so I put my chair out, and I've done it many, many times, and I interact with them. They'll play hide and seek with me. It's amazing. They'll turn on. This was just about 3 weeks ago. They turned, one came and he hid behind a cloud, and I waved at it, and he disappeared completely, and then he came back with a beautiful glow, and then disappeared again, and I waved again, and he came back. That was kind of a first for that one. Normally they stay kind of star-like, and then when you wave to them, not always, but a good bit of time, they will just expand exponentially in brightness, and it is just an amazing thing to interact in that very subtle and kind of a playful way, really.
Yeah, how lovely. And I wonder what they're doing, whether they're on their travels generally, like a trade route, or whether they're patrolling for some reason. I don't know if you actually get any information through, John.
Yeah, they come to me. They're vectoring in here. I see them because I sit outside, and I thank all of them for, the great kindness that they've shown towards me. I thank them for each of the events that I've experienced. And what I do is Joanna, is I stare at a star, like whatever, a bright star, close to my line of vision. And I just use that, and I use a couple stars around it to triangulate, and they will vector in to that spot, and I can see them coming in as like a shooting star, or I'll see a very bright light. I mean, maybe just a millisecond, and then boom, there they are. And so, yeah, they are absolutely coming here for that. The frequency that my mind is at that time, they recognize, and they come in, and they come in, many dozens of times. Almost, I would say probably 80% of the time I go out there, they come in.
Really?
And the other times, it's completely fine with me. I'm sure they've got many important things they're doing, and that's fine. But I'm very thankful when they do come.
Well, we've got the heart cloud-shaped pick up now, so people can see that, and it really is definitely a heart. There's no, I don't think there's, you could say that it was anything else, and it's really it looks quite large as well. So yeah. I think it's really kind of a beautiful sign. It seems that there's so many people connect through fear and intrepidation and all those kind of other emotions that we have. And I think that you've just gone straight out on the love vibration and the appreciation and gratitude vibration. And this is what you're getting back. And I think it's really, really exciting. So I don't know if that cloud was large, but it certainly kind of gives the impression of being large from the photograph anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, my son was married about, September the 5th of this year, and I played for his wedding, and it was a beautiful thing, and it was just a gorgeous night. And I was putting my equipment in my car, and this was a venue about an hour from the house. And I turned around, and this beautiful golden shooting star just illuminated the entire sky, and it was them saying, congratulations, what a wonderful day for you. And last night, it was fantastic. And last night, Joanna, I thought the word love for the first time out there, and literally that second, a golden shooting star went. It was amazing.
Yeah, it seems like you have really forged some connection. It's really nice to speak to you about it, John, because I know just before I came on air, a friend of mine called and said, Joanne, just to let you know, it's all positive. There's so much positive, and don't get bogged down in the negative. And I don't think we want to get bogged down in the negative, but we do have to acknowledge that where there is trauma or hurt or anything that is not in balance, then we do need to address it. So I don't have any issue with that, but it is beautiful. And I've got a question from David Monroe up in Lossiemouth in Scotland. And he says, please ask John if there was any sound. I did mean to ask you that, actually, like a whirring noise. And he's thinking that perhaps the ships you saw were Pleiadian beam ships. I don't know what your thoughts are about that, John.
I don't really know where they're from, honestly. And no, there was no sound. It's always been completely silent. And in my mind, there's a vibration and there's a frequency when I perform music. And when I'm playing Bach, my mind is on a certain wavelength. And when I'm outside and I'm meditating, I'm playing these pieces in my mind. So if it's not exactly the same frequency, it must be close. And they recognize that, and I think that's what's drawing in, the positive interactions. And you're right. I'm sure there's a lot of negative out there, but when your mind is in a very positive place, and when you're thinking of only the good things that you're hopeful for this earth and for our planet and our people and our future, they recognize that, and it's just as about as beautiful an experience as you could hope for on this plane. I think. I mean, it's really amazing, and I would encourage all of your listeners to, whatever they really enjoy, what moves them, what puts them in that very serene place in their mind. Don't just do it inside. Go outside and offer your unique creativity to the universe, and you will be very, very surprised, I think, in a very pleasant way, what will happen.
Okay, well, maybe this is a nice time to actually play Bach, and this is your second choice, and it is the Prelude from the Cello Suite Number 2, J.S. Bach. This is just about 2.5 minutes, or a little bit under, but it's John playing, and how lovely is that? Ah, wasn't that just lovely? Absolutely gorgeous. Thank you, John. Absolutely brilliant.
That was fun. It's interesting that, and we'll go into President Carter in a moment, I'm sure, but I recorded an album on his 90th birthday, and that was one of the pieces. So if you heard a little kind of a bell going on, that was my dog running through. Running at my house.
Well, actually, I wanted to talk to you about that because so when was Jimmy Carter's 90th then? Was that fairly recent?
Yeah, his birthday is a week after mine. It's actually 5 days after my birthday and 5 days before my son's birthday, October the 1st, I believe. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you've all had birthdays just recently. Oh, well, hope it was a nice one. So was he 90 this year? I guess that's where I was going.
No, he was 91 this year.
He's 91. Okay. I think that as well is pretty much the same as Paul Hellyer, actually, the Canadian Minister of Defense, or ex-Minister of Defense, who's been talking about UFOs a lot. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but anyway, let's move on and talk about Jimmy Carter. Did he tell you much about his own experience, which I think was way back in '69?
He did. I was a friend of mine has a guitar factory. It goes back 100 years in Madrid, Spain, and we've been donating guitars to the Carter Center for a number of years now, and we've raised a lot of money for the Carter Center. So we were in Toledo, Spain, which is really where the factory itself is.
Oh,
And
I like Toledo. Yeah.
beautiful place. And we were having dinner that night, and he was sitting next to me, and the person next to me asked him about UFOs. I didn't, but when he brought it up, I asked him about it, and he was kind of reticent about speaking with it, of course, and I understood that. But I told him my experience at that time. When I was about 15, my sister and I were pulling into our neighborhood, and there was a golden orb, probably. I mean, it was a structure. It was maybe a plasma structure. I'm not sure, but a solid gold, probably 20 feet across. It was really magnificent and huge. And a friend of mine that I used to teach guitar with, he was it went over a shopping center where hundreds of people saw it at the same time. So I told him about that. And so that kind of made him feel a little bit more comfortable about his experience. And what he said was he was at a dinner with a number of farmers in South Georgia, and they went outside, and he saw a light that it moved very erratically. It had a very strange color to it, and he'd never seen anything like it. And as far as he could tell, it was a UFO. And that's really the extent of what we said, what we talked about. But he did verify that he saw one, and I thought that was, kind of an amazing thing, really.
Yes, well, I think he tried, and I don't think he would have got very far. Well, he obviously didn't get very far when he was in office, to try and get a little bit underneath the skin of the UFO subject. But I'm pretty sure he wasn't allowed to do that.
I think Bush Sr. was head of CIA and shut the whole thing down, was my understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. We just, I think we've got a couple of pictures of you as well, which would be nice for people to see, just playing, and you are with Jimmy Carter there. And I guess that, because he said a lovely thing, didn't he? He said that he knew Segovia, and that he was sure that Segovia would be really delighted with your own wonderful work there. So that was really, really nice. And that he has such an appreciation, not only of the UFO subject, but
I've had private meetings with him in his private living quarters at the Carter Center. He's got it's this really beautiful sculpture of Segovia's hands that the maestro gave to them. So
how beautiful.
He showed that to me at one of our meetings, and it was really great. So he's such a wonderful person, a deep thinker. You can really speak on any subject, and he's so well versed on many things beyond politics. He's just a very deep and wonderful human being, and it's an honor for me to.
Well, you know what? I also hear that he's not doing too well at the moment, health-wise, and so maybe we'll just again send out with your energies, I think, attached, some health and wellness vibes in his direction.
Absolutely.
We'll do that. Yeah. Wonderful stuff.
I think his therapy is going very well, though, is my understanding. Well,
I'd be very interested to know. And actually, that's an interesting little segue into something I was going to mention at the beginning, but I got sidetracked with other things. I'm just talking about the health and wellness and different methodologies for treating cancers. I've been listening to a series of, it's a sort of documentary research work by a guy called Ty Bollinger. It's T-Y for the name, and B-O-L-L-I-N-G-E-R, Bollinger. He's an American guy who's gone across the globe searching out all the different methodologies, alternative methodologies that are working, and talking to people who were given, weeks or even days to live, that kind of thing. And the reason I wanted to mention this is just talking, it's really, again, flagging up the meme, the quantum field that is fed with our fears and our anxieties. And it's understandable to a great extent because, again, a lot of the knowledge and information, just like this field that we're talking about now, it's not allowed. It's not allowed out. It's not allowed in the public domain. And still, it comes under the debunkers' eyes as quackery and stuff. Well, I think if you're surviving either chemotherapy, if you've gone down that route, or or other systems like the wonderful Hoxie Clinic in New Mexico that the authorities tried for so long to shut him down before he died. That these are fantastic, and I hope we can perhaps do something, or I can do something about this on this subject at another time as a special, because it is absolutely fantastic. And this work and the information that Ty Bollinger has come out with, and I encourage anybody to go and have a look if they're interested in this kind of field, just what it is that he is helping people to educate themselves with. Everything from nutrition and juicing to the value of vitamin D and why sun creams actually cause cancer, all of this kind of stuff. But I don't want to get completely off topic, but it is interesting, as I said, because it just really takes me to the field of the psychological, of the structure of that we prevailing rather of the fear of any thought of cancer, and all that there is around that is fantastic, that is still hidden away. So Ty Bollinger, folks, and I can't remember, it's called Quest for Cures or Cancer Cures, but anyway, if you Google him, you'll find a lot of work that he's done. And this recent work, just in this last week, I've been watching it. It is fantastic material and a godsend. Honestly, it's opened my eyes. I thought my eyes were pretty well open, but they've been opened a little bit more to some of the wonderful opportunities for health that people are experiencing. So it's all good. It's all good. And we are, pushing the envelope in all kinds of different ways. So ET's just one of them.
I'm very impressed with the breadth of your investigative mind. It's very, it's just I can feel the passion you have for so many different and positive things for humanity, and thank you for that. I've got a lot of catching up to do with your work.
Well, I just have a passion for health and wellness and for people, and I have been surrounded for most of my adult life by some wonderful human beings who have shared their therapeutic skills with me. And I'm also a therapist. I work with kind of regression-orientated work, when it hurts me just to feel the energy of people not well. When they could be well, and it wouldn't take, it's really a mindset change for them to be well. And, anyway, so I was researching the health and wellness thing long before I did the UFO and ET stuff, but also in the ET world, there's a lot of people who are not that well. And I think it would absolutely, it would serve us well to research some of that and to find out why that happens. And also the impact on some animals. Some animals are quite traumatized by the presence of ET. Now, whether that is to do with the electromagnetic disturbances of the field, I don't know. But I know that quite a lot of animals have been quite traumatized, and for the rest of their life, by interaction. So, I think we just need to set a few parameters and protocols here. Come and see us and come and interact, and let's have a consensual, happy, relationship here, and let's not traumatize one another. So, anyway, but thank you for those thoughts. That's really nice. And I guess you just forget what you know and what you've been researching sometimes. But yes, so the Ty Bollinger folks, go and have a look. That is absolute mine of information. And there's a lot of new material. Apparently, I didn't see what he'd produced last year, but this apparently is by far and away the most amazing lot of material as a resource. And if you know anybody, we're not talking about hugely expensive systems. That there are some treatments and whatever that you can pay for, but there's just lots of stuff you can do at home. So anyway, as I say, that's subjects for another time. I just wanted to touch base because this field really does take you 360 all the way around, and it involves all aspects. But for the moment, we'll get back to John and hear perhaps a little bit more about his feelings on his new awareness and interaction, and the fact that he's using a particular, consciously, particular mindset to engage. Now, and I just wondered, John, if that is natural to you, because that's the kind of person you are, or whether you have been communicated with before from childhood, or through, whether your parents had any interactions or experiences. I don't know what.
Well,
Are you there, Joanne?
I could just answer a question if that would help.
Sure. She's froze, so go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, Joanne, when I was born, I had an identical twin brother who only lived for about half an hour. So I feel like I have a second person like myself on the other side. So I think that that has kind of informed a lot of my sensibilities and sensitivities over the years. And when we spoke on our first conversation, I made the realization through I think your observation that I don't think I would have this sort of experience in my 20s, perhaps, or 30s, because you're so busy with with me. I was raising a family, and you've got all bills to pay and keeping the wolves from the door, pretty much. And so it seems like now is the time for me to be able to do this. I have challenges now as much as anything, but I really feel that my psyche, my ability to see into a different realm is strongest now, and that's what I'm doing is I'm using that ability to see something that is, we all heard about it, and we all think it's possible, and they are they here? Do you think they're coming? Yeah, they're here, all right. And I can tell you very clearly they are absolutely here, and they're here to help us. And and I'm not so naive to think that they're all good, and that there's no downside to going into the unknown. But the way I feel is I project a very positive aspect of my life and my hopes for this world, and I think that the positive aspect has been recognized, and I think it's an important thing that we all can do. I think so much of life is observational now, and reaction based, as opposed to going out and creating something that can be earth changing, and if you give yourself a chance, you can create a world that no one has ever had before. And I think it's the potential of taking us to the next step of humanity, and that's really what I'm excited about.
Yes, John, I think that is, what actually, it's really, you have really made me see that. Just with that, one experience that, well, I don't mean one experience, but that set of experiences that you've had, it hadn't actually occurred to me, as I said before, to do something like that. I've gone and skywatched before, and and I've sent positive energies out and said hello to various stars, but I guess I haven't actually just sat out and maybe contemplated specifically for a little period of time. And maybe I should try the music thing as well. I mean, even though I'm not a musician, there's certain beautiful music that I love. And, I've always wondered about E.T. and music and art, for that matter, because I absolutely adore art generally. And I'm just wondering, how is that? What would that be like for them? And whether they have the same kind of configuration musically, whether they would play a guitar, or whether I don't know how that might work. I don't know.
I really feel strongly that I'll be playing with them at some point. and I'm very excited about that possibility. And if you think about it, I'm sure their experience with humanity goes back many, many tens of thousands of years to civilizations we don't may not even know about. And so they've got this collective experience that they have, that when they see someone that's trying to create, and it's kind of reflective of some of the better things that they've seen, hopefully,
Yes.
over thousands of years. I think they recognize that, and I think they're supportive of it. And for me, it's just been a great revelation that that you don't have to go to some special place. They come to you, and that's
Well, yeah, I've heard one or two people do that as well. I'd actually frighten the bejesus out of them. They actually were one guy, young guy I'm thinking about, this is in England, sat in his back garden and really not musically or anything, but just sent out a thought. I'd really like to see somebody. Anyway, he certainly did. He began singing a lot, and then he went on holiday and he was with his parents, and blow me, they again saw a craft, and it seemed to have opened up a communication. So amazing. And I just think maybe the quality of the contact is the thing. Of course, we can say, well, that's maybe an obvious thing to say, but I think it's not just the quality; it's the maintaining that quality. And I think that's where perhaps I've fallen off the log a bit. I haven't maintained it for long enough, because if you're maybe when you were out there playing physically, and the number might last a few minutes, or maybe many minutes, and that would give real opportunity for the vibrations to be saturated with the energy, and then the waves carrying your mindset. I just think that's a lovely thing, and I'm going to think of some of my favorite songs, and then and some of the classical ones. I wonder if you did. I know you said you've done it with jazz as well, but I wonder if kind of some of the pop songs would the positive ones would also elicit a kind of positive response too.
I think so. And Joanne, what you do is, I think it's important to give them a focal point. And so, I'm kind of left eye dominant, and so my left eye is what I use, and I'll just stare directly at a star and I think that it's sort of a carrier wave that carries the intention.
Yes.
And so, and then I have 2 or 3 stars, and I'll just kind of work my way around these 3 and just keep that intention, and it doesn't take long. Sometimes they'll be there in 2 minutes. Sometimes it takes half an hour. There's a kind of a range depending, I guess, where they're coming from. I really don't know that, but
Yes, they haven't communicated what kind of being they are or what they're doing or nothing at all. Just the contact.
I think it's early still. I really do. That's my feeling. Is they're just being very gentle, very. They're taking their time. Civility seems to be the one of the key factors here. They wait for me to initiate contact, and then they come, and then they just make a very very lovely display, and then it's over for the day, and I go back in. I may stay outside half an hour at the most, and it's just.
And what about your family, John? I mean, I know you said your Karen, your other half, had seen that, and is she as open to it as you, or is interested perhaps, or
Interested, but I don't think she's nearly as comfortable. She's more of a she's a nurse, and so she has a very analytical sort of a bend to her sensibilities, and it's a big stretch for her. So I try not there's a bit of don't ask, don't
resistance.
But I just let her. I'm going outside, okay. And what did you see? Well, I saw really beautiful today, and that's kind of. And she sat out there once or twice, and she's seen a couple, but it's not really something that she's terribly interested in. But my sons are starting to see them now. My other son was driving to work at 4 in the morning, and he kind of goes fairly close to where we are, and he said there was this beautiful bright object, and he estimated it was somewhere near my house. And um, actually, I it's sort of a long story, but I have my son needs some help, and so I just kind of came home pretty late that night, helping him watch the kids because he works at night. And so I was just laying down in bed when he said, "Did you see that outside?" And I said, "Well, I just drove up." But they are starting to see them as I have, and so it's interesting, I think.
And what's his feeling about that? Is he comfortable, or is just who knows, who cares, or
Well, he just thought it was interesting. It was a beautiful
okay.
display, and yeah, that it's kind of a stretch for everybody because I'm a musician, and I'm kind of a different kind of a breed anyway, I guess. I don't know. You know, it's a different lifestyle to be a musician, to dedicate yourself to music.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and not many people can really do that. And there's so the artists and the musicians, we our mind is in that sort of a place for much longer than the general public, and so
Yeah.
it may be something to that. I've never really thought about that much, but I'll have to put some thought into that, I think.
Well, that does make sense, actually. You're thinking about artists as well,
Hmm.
other kinds of artists, and yeah, I guess there would be a longer period of contemplation on executing something, or holding a thought about something as it develops. Perhaps more than, say, myself, who's got a bit of a monkey mind everywhere, all over the place. So yeah, well, I definitely I'm going to try that. And there seems to be, I don't know whether it's everywhere, but I know that one or two people around me are seeing, not so much myself, but are seeing a lot of movement in the skies, a lot more. We've got a wonderful image there that's Stephen's just put up. Maybe we could share that, Stephen, online.
Yeah,
That's
that was me. I just sent that to you.
Oh, did you? Bless you. Sorry. Okay, great.
There's a medium here in Atlanta. His name is Chip Coffey. I'm not sure if you might know who he is. He's a medium, and he can converse with people that have crossed over.
Okay.
And he was driving down. It's called Highway 400. And I was outside. He posted this on Facebook, and he posted it as soon as he did it. And I was outside, and it popped up when I was out there. And
When you say it popped up, do you mean you saw it yourself? And
no, just the picture popped up on my.
oh, I see. Okay.
And
Yeah.
so this is about a mile from my house, and I was outside, and those two buildings back there, the King and Queen building, and directly across from that was where we haven't discussed this. I was driving my friend to the emergency room, and I pulled off directly in front of those two, and a football-shaped UFO, about 4 feet long, beautiful golden football during the day, just popped right over the top of a hotel. And this is just maybe half a mile north of that, and you can see he was just driving through the area, and he captured that UFO in his car while he was driving by.
Wow.
And
I mean, that is really clear, isn't it?
yeah, and that's about a
It's,
mile from my house, and I'm not sure if that's connected with what I see, but I just felt it was very interesting that he's just driving through my little area, that he were to get a photo like that. I just thought it was just a very amazing thing, and
it is. It looks really atmospheric as well because of just the nighttime configuration. It's really quite beautiful, and yeah, I didn't. I remember now that I did see that one before. I didn't realize. Yeah, I'll have to have a good look at that one as well. It looks like it's slightly, I don't know, slightly longer one. I didn't. I haven't really seen myself that many. I've seen points of light more than anything. And the one astonishing set of points of light that I saw, I think it was last year, and it was around the show time when I was doing one of the programs here. And I was looking up at the sky and I said, okay, come on, guys, just, just show me. And there were three stars, like a bit of an Orion's belt configuration, just a straight line. And then the left one moved off to the left, the one in the middle moved forward, and the one to the right moved to the right. But whereas the other two had continued moving, the one on the right went a certain distance and then stopped. And my jaw just dropped and went, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I haven't seen anything, remotely like, apart from my heart in the cloud there. That was amazing. But craft-wise, I haven't. But I'm going to try a different tack now talking to you, John, and see what I come up with.
Yeah, let me know how it works for you, because you go out with the intention of doing that, and find a spot where you're very comfortable, where you can see the night sky, and concentrate on a particular point that they can vector into, and have your mind in that place. Whatever music that you love the most, I would use that, and you can do it in your mind, or I guess you could play it with headphones. I've not tried that, but and just try that and see what happens, and just be thankful and open to the experience. And I would really recommend that to your viewers as well, to try it.
Well, it's a great experiment to try. And like just talking about Anna Brayton back again, her communication with the great white shark, and talking about the field there. I mean, it's the field is it penetrates everything. So
Yeah.
I think that again, her work, I've been really impressed with the way she speaks and the way she orientates herself to the communication that she's going to be doing or working with. And I think this to me has just been recently a real sort of I don't know, joining up the dots perhaps of maybe how this communication can work a bit better. And there does seem to be a lot of people who are also really working on the positive and having a lot of wonderful experiences. And I'm not talking about those who aren't, I'm just talking about those that I've heard about who are. And there does seem to be, I don't know, maybe a slight reorientation, or maybe a slight movement forward in the numbers. I think maybe it's a numbers game too. We need that critical mass of, say, the positive, or of anything, to make a real difference. And maybe that's is what we're seeing evidence of with your experience, John.
One of the most interesting things she said was the competition aspect of these surfers in the water.
Yeah, very interesting.
And that changes the energy. And I've been in competitions early on in my career, and it was an anathema to me personally, because I just railed against it. Competition is in a lot of ways is a very negative thing. You're fighting your way to the top, and everyone else feels like they've lost, and that should not be the case on something as creative as surfing or music or art. You should challenge yourself, but don't compete against others and feel like you've won or lost. I thought that was a great realization that she made, and I've always felt that way. And as soon as I put all of that behind me, then my own creativity really started to blossom, and I think that's an important next step with all of us. I don't like watching these competition shows where they kick somebody off every day. I don't care. No one is that much better than the other. It's just a different aspect of your own creativity, and that should all be just celebrated, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, maybe there is. I don't know, maybe this is part of just a wee turning of that, that energy in that direction, and that would be wonderful. It really would, because I remember I wanted to put together a film project or some video project, and then I saw that it came to my attention that somebody else was wanting to do the same subject matter. So I said to them about that, whether they were going to go ahead and whatever. Anyway, but they were absolutely brilliant, and they said to me, "Look, it doesn't matter. You carry on. There's plenty of space on this planet for everybody to do what they want to do, and if that's your passion at the moment to do some work on this person, then you do that. And I don't know whether I'll carry on, but if I do, that's not a big deal." And I thought, wow, normally you get your nose bloodied for
People bristling up and all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, but I just thought, oh, okay, how lovely, thank you very much. And it's like this, giving people permission, isn't it, to be themselves, to be their creative genius, whether it's just for them for that day, the genius within the family structure, or genius that you've finally got a letter done that you've been meaning to do, or did some coursework. I just do think that this lot of humanity, I just think everybody really is, doing this hero's journey. And really, there are some times when I am in absolute awe of the human race. And I don't know about ET, but I just think that we are doing a phenomenal job just to keep hanging on.
Very
Sometimes.
And it's all points on a curve, where, there's a large arc to our lifetimes. And, sometimes we're a little below the curve and sometimes we're a little above, but you have to, accept that whole gamut of experience, and all of it's important, every bit of it.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's really important too to de-stress the stressors, that are impinging on life. And it's a work in progress for myself too, but I'm becoming far more aware of it. And again, it's just going back to PIR. It's about seeking solutions, whether it's out there in the legal terms of what you need to live, to keep your property, to keep a roof over your head, or whether it's whatever that is, whether it's you coming to terms with failed relationship or a new one, or whatever these human endeavors and pathways are, really is incredible. And the more I witness a lot of humanity, there's plenty I don't like, don't get me wrong. There's plenty that doesn't gel, and I think, oh God, what am I doing on the planet? But on the other hand, I just see the amazing courage and heroism of humanity and absolute beauty of soul. And it's fantastic. I really do applaud humanity in the main. So going back to that first experience, John, I just wanted to ask, that I can't remember, did you say you were about 15 when you had that very first experience?
Yes.
With your sister?
Mm-hmm.
Had you had any precursor event to that? I mean, and I mean by that with dreams, with talk with a family, were your parents interested? I always find it interesting to see if there is any backdrop sociologically, psychologically from your environment.
Not very much, honestly. I mean,
Okay.
I was always interested in it. I remember I would have little books on UFOs when I was quite young, because I was just fascinated by the subject of it, but I never had any thought that I would actually see one.
Yeah.
It just seemed like a very interesting, and for some reason they'd always try to make it a scary experience. There was always a little trepidation because of this almost a blanket experience of it all being negative, and that was kind of everything back at that time. And even today you get a lot of how negative it all is, and there may well be those circumstances, but I've never had anything but just a lovely, warm and caring relationship and experience.
Yeah. Well, that's lovely. And what did your sister think? Did it leave a lasting impression on her?
It did. Well, we talk about it to this day. I mean, it was,
Really?
yeah, it was, you don't forget about that. My friend who saw it too, his father-in-law. Well, I just talked about it last week with him, and he said his father-in-law, who now has Alzheimer's, and yet he said he asked him just a few, because he and I had been talking about this, and he asked his father-in-law, "Do you remember what we saw all those years ago? Oh, that big golden thing in the sky." Yeah. And so even with a challenged memory, it's so strong that that it retains a special place in your mind. So you just don't forget these kind of things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I don't know whether you've spoken to any fellow musicians about this kind of thing, but I had a really wonderful guy called, I don't know if you've heard of him either, Merrill Fankhauser. He's out somewhere Malibu way.
Mhm.
One of those wonderful maverick types. He has his own studio and does his own work as well as writing stuff. But he was saying that he had out where in the ocean near where he lives, there is a mound out, and now it's obviously the roof of a submerged building. And apparently, many years ago, when the seas were at a different level, you could see the dome. It's actually like a dome shaped. And he said the Indian natives people would be fishing off it. And
Wow.
anyway, so the sea's now much higher, so you can't see it, and it's quite well submerged. But there was a guy an old chap, who in the wartime used to be, it's not like a code breaker. He was more like somebody who used to observe the frequencies that, for instance, the Japanese might have been using in terms of the warfare I'm speaking about now. And so he was very tuned to vibration, frequency of sounds and vibrations. And he began observing something coming from that region of the ocean. And he began, recording it. And then he sent this to another guy who then sent it on to Merrill. And Merrill has, and it's called Signals from Malibu. So maybe, I keep trying to get him to send me a copy of that one. He keeps saying he will. But Signals from Malibu, and it's based on the sounds coming from this dome. And what's really interesting too about that is that he said the recording was initially in analog, and then he tried to, get it into digital, like you do, put on CD or whatever, and it wouldn't work. He could not do it. It would not record. He said he'd never known anything like it. But anyway, you'll have to maybe have a listen to some of what he said on the previous interview. There's a podcast. I can't remember what number it was. I think it was back in June. But what an interesting guy. That was fascinating. And he also asked me, because we played some of the sounds, and he asked me if I personally had felt any response to it. He said because he's been on other radio shows, and he said some of the female hosts particularly have some kind of reaction or response to it. I didn't have myself, and not that it was had to be bad or anything, but just something. I seem to be oblivious to whatever those vibrations might have been, but the sounds were very interesting. So he's done this album, I think it's called Signals from Malibu, incorporating those sounds and also some planetary sounds, and it's wonderful. And he's just built, I think his guitar as well. Actually, have to put you guys in touch. Actually, you maybe find that really interesting to remind me.
What is his name again?
It's Merrill. It's a really good name. So it's Merrell. And the surname is a really good one. It's sort of German based. It's Fankhauser. So it's Fankhauser. Fankhauser. It's a most unusual name.
I'll check him out. So how old is this dome, do we think?
Oh, that's got, well, he thinks it's Atlantean. Thinks it's maybe Atlantean. I think that's his feeling.
Is it a glass or metal or what?
No, I think I got the impression, and I don't know if I'm correct here, that it was like stone or something.
Wow.
That's what I understand. maybe if you stay around just after the show for 2 or 3 minutes, I'll try and find that link for you, or I can send it to you another time anyway, so
Okay.
you can pick it up. But that would be very interesting for you two guys to speak, because he's totally switched on to all of this, arena, as it were. And
Cool.
also, what's really interesting too, I'm dying to interview him. I don't know if he'll let me, but the head of the I think it's called Gonzo Media or something like that. Sorry, it's a funny name. Which is the guy, which is the label that produced his album in the UK. Went and met with Uri Geller, and I don't know whether you know that Uri Geller met up with John Lennon, and that John Lennon had not only a sighting but a one-on-one visitation, and the being, like a little grey, I think it was, gave John Lennon a metallic egg-shaped object,
Wow.
small. And John Lennon was a bit freaked out by that, didn't really want it.
Is that right?
Yeah, and he gave it to Geller.
Cool.
And so this guy then, Merrill, was telling me that the boss of the label had been over to see him, and to see this object and to touch it and see what he felt from it. And I'm dying to know what that was or what that is. So,
It's interesting you mentioned Uri Geller, because when I was young, I was probably 9 years old. He was on the Mike Douglas show, and he would get a spoon and he would rub it like this.
yeah, the old spoon
And
wedding.
he asked everybody to do that, and I did this. I was just a little kid, and I did it myself, and it did bend, not a lot, but it bent, and that was my first time of something, kind of out of the normal realm that ever happened. So that's interesting. You said that.
Yeah. Well, also, I was going to say to you as well, a lot of musicians owe a lot of their creativity, like the Moody Blues, and there's some loads of bands, big, very famous bands, famous singers as well, who so famous I can't think of all their names at the moment, but certainly I know, like the Moody Blues, have had encounters which have inspired their music.
Yeah.
And there's many. I mean, I don't know, Grant Cameron, the Canadian researcher. Okay, so after he did all his monumental heroic effort of the Freedom of Information Acts for all what the presidents knew and all the rest of that, he then began to realize things were consciousness led and all of that. So he's exploring things very differently. But that also took him down the route to the musician side. So he began looking at all the different musicians and what they'd experienced. So I've just got Stephen asking me, I think he's gone and had a look at the Merrill Fankhauser one. Yeah, that's it. It's actually podcast number 30. And the first half is with Paul Hellyer, the ex-Minister of Defence for Canada. And then part two, the last hour, the second hour, is with Pacific Coast Signals. That's one of his albums, and the other one, Signals from Malibu. That's the one I'm trying to get hold of. He looks, one of those lovely, funky guys. So he's just such a nice man.
It's interesting. I went to a concert about 3 months ago. I'm not sure if you know who Steely Dan is.
Yeah, I do.
They were a very important band for me when I was growing up, and I've arranged some of their music for guitar. And they had a concert on an outside venue here about 3 months ago, and we went with some friends. And I'd told my one friend about all the experiences, and he said I would love to see one. And so it was a beautiful night, and we were sitting out, and there were 3 stars that were very clearly just in my field of view, and we were enjoying the show, and it was fantastic. And I was just concentrating on those 3 stars, and this beautiful golden orb appeared right in the center of it and came right across. And I nudged him and said, "There you go." And he thought it was really a beautiful thing. And it was over 5,000 people. Nobody, I think, even saw it, maybe a handful at most. And but that was an amazing thing. I was, It took a long time though. Normally it takes just, 10 or 15 minutes, but it was a good hour of really concentrating. And then they finally came and well, that one particular one did. And to
Well,
me,
that's interesting. You say it took a long time now because of what you've kind of shared, I'm wondering if it might have taken a long time because the rest of the 5,000 people were, their minds wouldn't have been focused, well, necessarily in the way that yours was, of course. So maybe it was hard for them to get the message through that 5,000, those 5,000 minds.
I
Who
think
knows?
I think it was more they didn't want to show themselves to these people
Oh, okay. Yeah.
because they were rowdy and all that. But they did. They came, and that was the feeling that I have is, it wasn't because it's a very clear projection, and they pick up on it very quickly. But I think they may have had a meeting or something. Do we really want to go there?
Our friend down there is calling us. So. Yeah. Yeah, so that's, it is interesting with the musician thing. And I was just going to ask if again, I keep meaning to ask if you have any other musicians that you've spoken to about this who've had similar experiences or any experiences. No, really.
No, I'd like to do that. If any of your viewers are musicians and they have similar experiences, I'd love to talk to them. Really would.
Well, that is interesting. I mean, it is when because Grant is such a prodigious researcher and really great on detail. When I started looking down the list of musicians, I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but I must perhaps look it up for another time. I just think it's incredible the amount of people. It's really amazing. And how quiet everybody is about it. These guys, who think a little bit differently, these artists, I would have thought that they would have been shouting about that a bit more, but not.
Mm-hmm.
So there, yeah, I don't know about that, but it is just fascinating because someone was saying to me about, changing the world and we've got, enough billionaires, millionaires that could do it. And I said, well, what about all the absolutely millionaire musicians and bands and stuff? They could equally, there'd be more of a mindset maybe to throw some, money at research and centers and education on this side. But I don't know what it is. Seemingly those who can don't. Yeah.
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 I'm not sure how we get around that one. I think we all just do our part. That's about the best we can hope for. Just live a good life and try to be a good person and think positive things and try to be helpful and not harmful. Then I think we'll be in a much better place.
And it seems like we've lost Joanne again.
Well, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, I'd be happy to speak with any of you. And the best way to get in touch with me is my email, which is jmartingtr@gmail.com. And, I'd love to speak with you. And if you have any experiences or questions, I would be happy to answer them for you. And, I've got CDs if you might want to listen to them, and might give you some inspiration to go out and try it yourself. And that's what I would do. I would just get a place that you feel very comfortable. Go sit outside and create your own world. And it's interesting when I go out there. It's a bit of a microcosm because I think about.
John, I'll just put your song on until we get her back.
Okay.
All right. We'll be right back here in about 2.5 minutes, everyone.
So good, we had to play it twice. How lovely. Well, I don't know where I zipped off to then again. I think I must be falling into another dimension every now and again.
My son just sent me a video of a UFO he just saw. Interesting. That's
Who
amazing.
sent you that?
My son.
Oh, wow.
You got it on?
Wow.
I'm not sure you can see it, but no, I don't know if I can do that. There it is.
Oh, yeah. My goodness.
This thing.
Hey.
What about that?
Yeah, what about that? Well, that's going to be interesting. Keep you posted on that one.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to him about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, last night was so interesting though, because the first time I thought of the word love, and I I used that to project with, and immediately there was this beautiful golden shooting star, and I mean it was within a second of me thinking of that word. That's a pretty amazing thing. That's
Yeah.
very new.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And I was just going to say as well, John, just let people know where they can hear your music. Because you can give your, the website is reverbnation.com.
Yeah, / John Martin classical guitarist, and there's
Okay, yeah. Actually, I forgot initially to put in the classical guitarist element, and it came up with quite a few John Martins. So,
a lot of it's out there.
so reverbnation.com / John Martin classical guitarist. Lovely. And can people contact you there, John, if they want to?
They can't. I have.
Okay, that's absolutely great. Okay, so just love to say thank you very much. We're coming up to the end of our time, and it's been lovely just having a gentle discourse about all of this field and your experiences. And I do hope that you'll let us know what else manifests, if indeed things do continue. John, do let us know. And any other things going on with your family as well, because that is sounding like it's ramping up a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
it's been a great pleasure, Joanne. Thank you for having me, and thank you for putting me on your show. Thank you very much.
it's lovely. It's really nice. It's been very different, and I've learned something about doing this mindfulness, this mindset. So I'm going to try that. So thank you for sharing that, because I am definitely going to employ that. So I'll be letting you know if that happens.
Please.
Or if I say if that happens, it will happen, but if anything comes from that. So
Great.
and I'd just like to thank everybody for listening. It's the Ammach Files, and we are now coming up to nearly 1 a.m. here, and I think is that 8 p.m. for you, John, there?
It is, yes.
In Atlanta. Okay, well, I hope you have a lovely rest of your evening. Thank you very much for being with us. It's been a joy. Thank you so much for sharing. Very gentle, lovely discourse. And I shall remember your heart-shaped cloud. It's gorgeous.
Okay.
Stephen Roberts, thank you so much. You have been a stalwart. Thank you very much for putting up with all my requests for my bits and pieces of the show earlier on, all the photographs, and you've done absolutely wonderful work. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening, and I shall see you next week. So we're going to just play out with the Ammach outro. Ammach Files.